Hello, everyone, and welcome to Module A. This last week has been very hectic and busy for me, so I will catch up with all your discussion posts on Monday. So, if you had gone through the key points slideshow already, you notice I spent most of the time on Mills and Morton, on memos, on grounded theory, on the trends in the field, and how to find your own writing voice. So, that's the survey. Those three chapters give you the wide view of what ethnographers do when they turn the field work into writing. So this video is about the four reading. Celia Roberts and the Companion Piece by Judy Green, Mari Franquise, and Carol Dixon. And it is the shortest thing you read this week. It is from a different set of literature. It is from applied linguistics, TESOL, and not anthropology. And it does something the other three don't. It takes one small and glamorous act and shows you that it's been doing ideological work the whole time you thought it was just clerical. And I want to spend our time here because I think it is the most important reading of the four. So here is Robert's core claim, and I want to sit with how strong it is. There is no natural or objective way to write speech on a page. No, it is hard to be objective. Not, we should try to be careful. There is not such thing. Green, Frankie's, and Dixon put it right in the title. The objective transcript is a myth. And now, why would that be? So speech happens in time. It has speech, volume, rhythm, overlap, silence, breath, and body attached to it. Writing has none of that. So the moment you move from one to the other, you are not recording, you are deciding. And every decision is a decision about how this person will appear to the reader who was not in the room. So, where do you put each speaker on the page? Pointed out decades ago that when we put the adult's speech on the left in adult child interaction, we already made a decision about who is the one with power. And before anyone reads a word about it. So, do you mark a pause? How long does a pause have to be before it means something? Do you write what someone said or what you understood them to mean? So, none of those have a default. You will make every one of them, and the transcript will look like a record. So now here is what it gets specific for people working in our field. Roberts is writing about multilingual speakers, people using English as an additional language, people using varieties that don't match the standard written English. And she names a set of choices that I want you to recognize because you will face all of them. I dialect writing non-standard pronunciation phonetically so it reads the way it sounds. Robert says never use it. Preston's work on this is blunt. It stigmatizes. It marks the speaker as deviant while everyone else on the page gets clean standard orthography. Roberts stops there, but I want you to push it one step further. Look at who gets the phonetic treatment in a transcript and who does. It is almost never the researcher. The interviewer's questions come through clean. And some of you saw this in the HEATS chapters back in Module 4. Certain speakers render phonetically others, including he herself, not. So the asymmetry isn't incidental. And standard English isn't the absence of an accent. It is the accent privileged enough to go unmarked. So then there is one that should stop all of us. Robert mentions publishers who insist on imprinting only the English translation and not the original. And she calls that what it is, an ideological statement about the power of English to represent everyone and everything. So think about what that means concretely. A participant speaks to you in Spanish or in Haitian Creole or in Portuguese, and they choose their words. They make jokes that work in that language. And what reaches the reader is your English rendering alone on the page with the original nowhere. The reader never encounters that person's actual voice. They encounter yours. So Robert's phrase for what is lost is Bourdieu's at its best, the whole social person. So I want to connect this to something I raised in the slides. I mentioned that I wrote an autoethnography chapter with two classmates during my graduate program. And I say the hard part was seeing myself in the videos, in the recordings, in my own test messages, keeping the balance between self indulgence and real critical introspection. And I ended with a question I genuinely don't have a clean answer to. How do you manage that when you are doing it alone? I had my friends checking on me, I had my classmates calling me out. And Roberts gives me a way to think about it that I didn't have at the time that when I was doing that autoethnography. So the reason it was hard to see myself on the page is the same reason it is hard to render someone else fairly. When I look at the transcript of my own speech, I could feel everything the transcript was leaving out. What I what I had meant, what the moment felt like, what I would have wanted a reader to understand about me, the flatness of it, the way it made me look. Your participants have all of that too. Just can't feel it. You just can't feel it on their behalf. So the discomfort you feel reading yourself in a transcript isn't a problem with autoethnography. It is a preview. It is the closest you will get to knowing what your representational choices do to somebody else. And one of the few times you have all direct access to the gap between what was on the page and what was actually there. So Robert offers five practical maxims, and I rather you read them than me reciting them here. But I want to flag one thing about them because she flags them it's herself. So she admits they contain inner contradictions, and she's right. Look at two of them together. Use standard orthography to avoid stigmatizing your speakers, and work as closely as possible with your informants to agree on how they want to be represented. So what happens when a speaker wants their variety on the page? When smoothing in into standard English is the thing that erases them. And I don't think there is a rule that resolves that, to be honest with you. What there is instead is her fifth maxim, which is really the point of the whole piece. Be more reflexive about the whole process, not get it right. Be honest on the page about the fact that you decided so a reader can see the decision and weigh it. And that's the same move Mills and Morton are making when they talk about modesty and honesty as writing virtues, and it is Harsway's argument too. The only way to a larger vision is to be somewhere in particular. And you don't escape the position, you disclose it. So, the discussion this week, there are three clusters. One asks you to compare the temperature of these readings. Mills and Mortar are reassuring about method. Roberts and Green et al. Are unsettling. And I want you to know which you think is more honest and what each stand lets you miss. And one asks whether Robert is proposing genuine innovation or just another methodological level of the kind Niels and Morton are so skeptical about. And no one's asked directly about representing multilingual speakers. Pick the one that you actually want to argue with. And I'd rather you disagree with a reading or with me than summarize it well. So, one last thing, class. Everything we have read this week ends up in the same place. The page is not a mirror, it is something you make. Every choice you make about a person appears there because it is your decision. You are accountable for it. So, class, I hope that this video has helped you to understand that reading. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you. Have a lovely week. Bye bye.